Hello everybody, my name is Aaron Pozo-Ren and I'm your host for today's episode. For those who do not know, I'm a programming intern for the New Student Family programs here at Virginia Tech. Today we have a very special episode that will feature Miss Kimberly Clark-Shaw, the director of the Black Cultural Center at Virginia Tech. This podcast will focus on inclusion and diversity and the importance of being part of an identity-based community. We have 6 identity-based community centers located at the Squire Student Center in which they provide community, a space for these cultures, and an opportunity for growth and leadership. Today, out of those 6 identity-based communities, we highlight the Black Cultural Center. In 1984, Black student leaders from the class of 1985 proposed the establishment of the Black Cultural Center to correlate with the increase in recruitment of Black students. The BCC opened in 1991 in room 126 in the Squire Student Center. The BCC has been and is an important component of Virginia Tech's efforts to create a welcoming and inclusive campus. It is utilized by the campus community for educational programs, exhibits, meetings, and receptions. The BCC includes comfortable space for community building and for study. Now, today we have very special guest, Miss Kimberly Clark-Shaw, who is the director for the BCC, to conduct an interview with and to get a better look at how the BCC helps students excel, strive towards excellence, and feel included on campus. So, without further ado, let's get right into the interview. All right. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you well, yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, Miss Kimberly Clark-Shaw. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being on today's episode and just really giving us insight on the importance of being part of an identity-based group on campus. If you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what drove you to strive for this position as a director?
Sure. I am originally from New Jersey, so I went to Rutgers undergrad and I went to USC in Chapel Hill for graduate work. I've been in higher ed for about 15 years. I've worked at PWI's HBCU as well. What drove me to Virginia Tech really was a combination of really both. Virginia Tech it's a TWI or a TWI traditional, but it also has the diversity emphasis. And one thing that stood out to me was that the Office of Diversity is actually under the Provost Office, and that office is also connected to strategic affairs. So to me, diversity wasn't just an initiative, it was really a part of the structure. And so when I saw that, I saw they had several cultural centers, not just a Black cultural center or, some mainstream. They really did well to have various affinity groups from LGBTQ plus, the Latino cultural center. They had the Native cultural center and the APITA. So when I saw that was just, to me, that was diversity. It wasn't just one or the other. It was everyone, and I actually have really good colleagues. All of us, all the Denver cultural centers, we're actually very close. We hang out, we enjoy one another, we have our students collaborate. So that pretty much drove me to the position. And then working specifically in the Black Cultural Center, it was good to be able to combine. I worked in academic affairs and in student affairs, and it was really good to be able to do both. So we do everything from having faculty luncheon to Phi Beta Kappa meetings, having learning series with faculty, speaker series, and then, at the way end of the spectrum to have concerts with Gunna and Meg Thee Stallion. And, so it's really such a nice rainbow of things that I was involved in, interested in, and that I know I could do well on the academic and the social end. And so just to brag a little bit, because it's really kind of neat. This year we actually brought Ruth E. Carter for Martin Luther King
Wow.
celebration week. Yeah. And she just made history on Sunday. She's the first African American woman to win 2 Oscars. And so she was here with the students. We have pictures with her. The students congratulated her on social media, and it was really neat. And then just actually Wednesday, we got a little nod in Rolling Stones of all places, but Rolling Stones
Oh,
actually
wow.
acknowledged the Black Cultural Center for 50 years of hip hop. Um, and we had a seminar on women, mental health, and hip hop, and that was featured. A little shout out was featured in Rolling Stone. So, where Virginia Tech is, of course, a very academic institution, but to have those little social nuances really spoke to my heart and the work that I like to do. Very, very long answer to your question, but
Well,
that's
well,
how I
well,
got
well,
here.
we love it. I mean, I can tell you as a student, like, I appreciate you being able to do that for us, just being able to not only do the work that you do, but also just enjoy the work that you do. Cause, as you
Yeah.
know, when you pour passion into your job, that matters a lot. And, we can see it reflect. And I mean, I know we have concerts coming up, we have events coming up, and,
Yes.
it's thanks to, the staff, it's thanks to all the leadership. So, I mean, we appreciate you. We're happy that we have you here at Virginia Tech. And, I'm happy to hear that you actually enjoy working here, that you love working here, and that, you can really embody the culture that we have here. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And, just a little follow-up question is, why is culture and diversity important to you specifically? And like you've answered already in your previous answer and how that carried over your work. But, I really want to know, and we really want to know why culture and diversity really speaks to your heart and is a passion for you.
Well, that's actually a very easy question to answer. Really, culture and diversity is everything that I am. My family comes from almost any and everywhere in the world. I speak a few languages, and so it's nice to be able to use some of that and not just stay in English. English is my second language ish, so it's really good to be able to have that. My family is I have family that, of course, Black, Swedish, Finnish, Latin. Yeah, my grandfather was born in Panama. My sister lives in Switzerland with her husband or other families in Sweden. We have family in the Caribbean. So just a lot of diversity in my family. So I grew up in a very, very rich culture. We would switch languages all the time, and it was pretty normal. And then the older I got, the more I saw that things were polarized. And I didn't really know. I didn't even understand racism until I got to college because everyone was just kind of every color and
Yeah.
several languages were spoken. So it just wasn't a big deal. And so having that organically, I just didn't have the feelings. I kind of wanted to bring that to everything that I did. And really because it just seemed like it was natural. I learned that it was not, but I think that because I had that experience, I'm able to truly bring that to whatever I'm doing in a natural way, and it's genuine. And I think it is contagious. I think that if you're living that way, or you just kind of have the expectation that we're all here together, we have more in common than we have not in common, that it just ends up being a good experience. And honestly, just academically, so part of my background is in retention. And one of the tenets of retention, one of the researchers, Tinto, one of his big tenets of retention is all retention is giving students a good experience. If you give
Yeah.
students a good experience, that they're going to stay. And so I've done work in retention at other institutions. I've increased retention by 11% in 1 year. I've really worked hard on making students feel like they belong. So having a sense of belonging, I think that's really why this work is so important to me, and personally why I wanted to work in it, because I think having a sense of belonging, that's kind of a buzzword now, but it's so important. If you feel like you belong, you can really do anything and you'll excel and you'll achieve, especially at a place like Virginia Tech. I think we see it on the athletic side. If a student is an athlete, they're going to be here. And typically, if they're not playing the sport, then they're not going to be here. And that really works with anything. If a
Mhm.
student feels like they're a part of the community, whether it's the athletic community or just a certain major, a living learning community, or an affinity group, they're going to want to stay and they just have a good experience. And most importantly, they become wonderful alums. And so that is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. And like I said, we appreciate that. I appreciate it. And you're right about the retention, kind of just coming here and feeling like you belong, having a community that you can go to, having people that you can go to and also just depend on. That's important just in general. And so, I
Yeah.
find that important as well. Myself being a Hispanic male, it is important also for me
Mm,
to be around people that I can identify with, that I can relate to, and that, I know that there's a safe place here for me and any
yes.
struggles that I may go through. So, we appreciate that. And, you know, thank you so much for talking to me about, the personal experience and the personal passion that you have for this job. And so, the next couple of questions is going to be, more focused on the BCC. And so,
Okay.
first one we have here is, how have you seen the BCC influence students, and in what ways can you advocate for the growth of these students?
Hmm. And it's so funny. And it's almost like this happened in perfect time for the podcast. But just yesterday, this is a real story. Just yesterday, I was talking to a student. She's biochemistry major.
Wow.
She's a black young. She's a black student, of course, black female. I think she's a sophomore. And last year, for the first time, when I came again, I'm all about collaboration and kind of doing things together. So homecoming is a big thing here. And so at one point, they did homecoming and they did something called Black Homecoming. And I said, well, I think that's lovely, but I think that homecoming should just be something that we all do without labeling it anything. You can still have affinity groups without having a separate homecoming. But black students didn't feel like homecoming was really for them. So we did something a little bit different this year. One of the major players in the homecoming board, he's actually a black student who works in the BCC. And I think he was the only one. And he just really, again, organically worked with the committee. It wasn't to have black events, but it was just kind of to keep them at the table. And so one thing we did was to connect the alumni with the students. And so in the BCC, we had a welcome group to the alumni that were coming in. So the alumni that were coming in, we did a meet and greet. And I don't want to use acronyms without saying, but are you familiar with BAC and BSA?
Yes.
Okay. And just because for the sake of this, I'll say, so BAC is the Black Organizations Council. They oversee all the Black organizations on campus. And BSA is the Black Student Alliance. And they are a big programming board. And they're a student org, but they're really much more because they do quite a bit of large programming for the university. So that group, we connected. I'm also the advisor for those groups. So we did a meet and greet. The students brought food. They welcomed the alumni when they came for homecoming. And so again, organically, one of the members of BAC, she was just there talking to various people, and she was talking, some alumnus, asked, what was she doing? Long story short, she ended up talking to him. He actually teaches, he actually teaches at the medical school here, and she wants to go to
Wow.
medical school. So long story short, again, he became her mentor, and part of what she wants to do in medicine is pediatrics, and his wife is a pediatrician.
Wow.
And so not only does she have him as a mentor, the wife has let her follow, do some things in the office. And again, so random, so organic. It was nothing that we couldn't have did it if we wanted to, but they were happened to be in the BCC. They were there for the alumni event, and the students were there to welcome them. And that was just one of the conversations that happened. So I'm giving a very long answer to that because that is the essence of the BCC. It's fun. We have a good time. There's collaboration, but out of that collaboration, it can be life changing. So
Yeah.
now the student has this mentor. She's excited about medical school. She was stressed out. Now she really knows the process and what she needs to, do. And that wasn't in a classroom. That just happened because she was being social in a space with alum.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's great. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful story because, I can also relate to those type of things too. Kind of just to give my personal experience as well. I'm a mentor right now for the Diversifying Science Peer Mentorship. And
Wow.
so, being around other people that are diverse, I was able to talk to some students and just connect with other people about their interests too. And, kind of setting yourself up in a community where not only do you feel like you belong, but there is possible opportunity for that type of growth. And like you said, a life changing, moment like that. Those are the
Yeah.
things that, students, sometimes don't really realize because these groups plug you in with all types of different people that may be successful in a field that you may want to be successful in as well. And so,
Yes.
finding that in an organic way, it just makes it all the worthwhile because, not only are you kind of going out there and, growing professionally and developing in the ways that you want to academically, but you also get to grow, also while having a little bit of fun, having fun doing
Yeah.
things organically, like you said, being around the people that you love. And so, I love that. And, God willing that that student can continue with that mentorship, continue
Yes.
going into that field with pediatrics, and that's exactly what we want to see around here. And
Yeah.
a follow up to that is now we see how the cultural center affects students, but how does it affect the students' families, and what have you seen where the families have been directly or indirectly impacted by what the student is going through here in the BCC?
Mhm. Wow, yeah, and you're kind of taking me back, and I probably should have said this too, but I've only been here for about a year and a half, so I haven't been here long, but I've just done a lot because there was a lot to do. Um, and when I first arrived in the summer of last year, it was amazing. I was just really just getting the center ready. Right this year, I'm doing renovations. I'm changing everything, making it look more technological, and just getting some things in there just to modernize it a bit. And so this summer, kind of like cleaning up, looking at things, seeing what I can move and make the space even better. And it just so happened parents that were walking in. I don't know if they were doing a tour, but have you heard of the program BCI? Have you heard of that?
No, I have not. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. I'll just say a little bit about it. But it's called the Black College Institute. So every summer, Black students from all over the world come to Virginia Tech. It's a competitive program, and they take about 400 students over the course of about 3 to 4 weeks. And it's a free program. Those students have to be, of course, academically gifted. And even for those called the Black College Institute, those students don't necessarily come to Virginia Tech. It is just to give Black students experience at a college. About 40%, maybe 30% come here, but it's really just to give them a total experience, but it's housed at Tech. So part of this program, parents were here, and I think they were from California, so they were a little bit, nervous and worried, and they came to the space, and they were just like, what is this, They were just shocked that a space like that existed. I talked to them a little bit. We always have like great swag, things at the center. Gave them some swag and like we will take care of your, child. And just the look on their face, it was bittersweet because they were shocked, but so pleasantly happy. So it was really good just to see that smile. When you know that a parent has walked away, they're like, okay, my child's good. That's, to me, that's the best feeling. That is the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the most impacted parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And we also sometimes we forget that, going into college, transitioning into college, although it can be stressful for the student, kind of just acclimating to a new life. It's also hard on the parents as well. And,
Absolutely.
being able to have that knowledge and that security that your student is going into a place where they are going to be okay, that changes a lot of things too. And that also just gives families peace of mind. It gives families just overall happiness. And, I love that. And I appreciate that. And so going further in, we've talked about students as individuals, students with their families. And now I kind of want to ask, how does the BCC impact a student even after graduation? And what can you kind of expect and hope for students to get out of the experience being involved in the cultural center here?
So again, I've been here for about a year and a half, so I've only had one group graduate so far. But the great thing about it is that they did have a good experience because part of that group, they were the executive leadership for BAC. I still talk to them. They are actually coming back. We are doing a series starting this month through May called Black Women in Wellness, just to look at everything for Women's History Month for women of color too. And so one of the alum from just last year, she's going to be a panelist. She's really into health, nutrition, and fitness. And so she's decided to come back to be a part of that and really just keeping in touch. That's typically where we lose some. When students graduate, they kind of see themselves as alum, but not really. So just as soon as they graduate, making that connection that you are still a Hokie, you are alum, and just finding ways for them to connect. And because some of it is still in the age range. If we have a really good artist, the students will come back for a concert or something just to see, and they still have friends here. So that's one way that we've engaged students as they've transitioned to keep that connection.
Yeah, that's great. And so kind of just to wrap things up, we talked about, like I said, individual, families, and kind of what you can expect after, what you can take from the BCC. The last question I want to ask you to wrap things up is, what would you tell a prospective student who wants to or is thinking about getting involved with the BCC, and what are some advice you could give to a student that is just coming into the school?
I would tell them just to come in because I think it's a little bit intimidating. And personally, my son is actually here. He wants to come to Virginia Tech. He's about a year before he comes, and he loves the school, and he just loves it. And he's come with me to a couple of events, and it's a bit intimidating for him to go into the BCC, and other centers aren't as big, and other centers they're a little bit more subdued. So if you go to the BCC, it's usually so stereotypical, but you're going to have music, people are talking, they're eating, it's kind of loud, it's fun, it's a safe haven. But I think to a first year student, it might be like, oh my gosh, I'm walking in here, these people are going to look at, it's a little bit intimidating. So I would tell them just to come in and to sit down, and I guarantee they will join right in. The students in there are super friendly. A lot of them are student leaders. They're in different orgs, whether they're major orgs or just academic organizations. And it's really a good place to network and to connect with students. And because the campus is so large, and because diversity is something that we're striving for, a student here, student of color, can be in classes all day and never see anyone that looks like them. So to be in the BCC and to get that connection right away, I think is a really good experience. So I wouldn't want a student to not do it because it just looks, new. So I would tell them just to come in and sit and eat and talk, and everybody will love them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the important thing, just trying to be as outgoing as you can be,
Yes.
not being too nervous, because there's a lot of
Yes.
opportunities here. There's a lot of things here for a lot of students, and so we want them to take advantage of anything that makes them unique, anything that makes them whoever they are. And so I agree on that. Amen on that. And those are all the questions I have for you, Miss Kimberly Clark-Shaw. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day. And, just once more, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you so much for, coming here to this school, serving. And, we just thank you for that. So thank you so much. And, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See ya.
That concludes our episode with Miss Kimberly Clark-Shaw from the BCC. I hope all of you were able to listen and learn a little bit about our identity-based groups here at Virginia Tech. And I hope that if you are an incoming student, transfer student, or just a student that's already here listening along, I hope that you can consider joining either the BCC or any other of the identity-based groups. And once again, let's go Hokies.
Hokie Track Chats is brought to you by New Student and Family Programs at Virginia Tech. For more frequent updates, follow us on social media at Hokies on Track on Facebook or Instagram. If you are not already, join the Hokie Family Hub, which can be found at our website, students.vt.edu/transition. Music is Sun Say Yes by JL Brock. Editing software is Audition.